How did I return to my husband after a decade apart? 10 years ago, I left my husband. After being caught multiple times cheating on him, I was the one who left. Each time, my husband caught me cheating, and in Wall Street times, he would cry and then always insist that he loved me and express concern for my soul. Looking back, I see that he was being selfless. He was shelving his own pain and focusing on keeping me from damning myself. Back then, I saw him as being weak. I was a terrible person and not at all fit to be a wife or mother back then, but for some reason that man loved me in spite of all my evils. At the end of our relationship, I found myself believing I was in love with my latest affair partner, and I divorced my husband and left the church. I became what you'd call a militant atheist, and I urged my children to leave the church, abandon their faith, and live a worldly life. All the while, my husband never displayed his anger or frustrating, which I'm sure he must have felt. Instead, each time I saw him, he greeted me with a smile and was genuinely interested in how I was doing. This only filled me with rage because I felt he was being passive-aggressive. My perception was my reality. Don't want to bore you all with our entire story, but the last 10 years have been painful and enlightening. We had 5 children together. Recently, in speaking with our older children, my oldest daughter told me that her father has not dated anyone. I was shocked. I thought surely he would have moved on by now, and then she said something that felt like it slapped me awake. She said, "I asked Dad why he hasn't dated, and he told me, because I'm a married man. I feel beside myself. I feel like I've awoken to a terrible reality that I myself created. I feel stuck in action. I want to go to him and tell him I'm sorry, but I don't know if I have the right. What should I do?" My husband, 30 male, cheated on me with my best friend, 30 female. My husband, 30 male, cheated on me with a girl, 30F, that was supposed to be my best friend. She was my bridesmaid, her husband was a groomsman, and their kids were our ring bearer and flower girl. My husband and I have been together for 8 years, married for 1.5. So the affair started a year ago, and I found out immediately something was going on. They were very comfortable with each other and touching in a way that I wasn't okay with, right in front of my face and talking way too much on Snapchat. They denied it, and I believed them. She brought up my past relationship where I was cheated on and said she would never make me feel that way again. They continued to work out together and hang out while her husband and I were going both at our jobs. We didn't know. My husband has mostly worked from home since COVID, and she only works a couple times a week. I was 3 months pregnant with his son when all of this started. I was in a really dark place. I had a really terrible first trimester. I was literally miserable. I let things such as housework and paying attention to my husband slide, and it got bad. I never realized that he was struggling also. I wasn't the friend she needed either. I shut her and literally everyone else out, including my family. I wanted to be left alone. I was not okay. They turned to each other. They began an emotional affair and hid it from her husband and I for months. She would guilt me into hanging out with her, and he acted like things were fine between us. A couple months after the first time I had suspicions, I started to feel like something was going on again. She kept a workout journal in my husband and my barn where they worked out. I didn't know they were working out together yet. One day I decided to look at it. It was full of intimate psalm lyrics to each other. They were dated. One said, "I love you." It was my husband's handwriting and hers. I was crushed and 5 months pregnant at this time. We put a stop to it, or so we thought. They also swore to us that it was just emotional and not physical. They would text and talk on the phone all day. Then they'd delete all of it. They would meet up at my house and hang out for who knows how long. My husband and I began counseling a few days later, where I actually just found out he was lying all during counseling too. We went to counseling for 3 months until our son was born. My husband was so disconnected during the birth, and it crushed me. I struggled daily with being around him after that. I hadn't forgiven him. I hadn't even begun to heal. A couple months later, I approached him about other issues I was struggling with, as well as the fact that I needed to hash it all out and talk about it again. This was the first time he expressed remorse for what he had done and admitted it was wrong. 6 months after I had caught them the last time, I instantly felt better. I had forgiven him. I had heard what I needed to hear. I no longer hated being around him and found myself enjoying spending time with him again. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago. I was on my way out of town when my phone started ringing, and it was the girl's husband on the other side. He called me to tell me that he had caught them together that morning, shortly after I had left. My husband had kissed me bye and told me he loved me as I left with our son for the day. He was set on divorce because initially I had said I was done. What else was I going to say in that moment? He was so dead set on divorce that it killed me that he wanted that when he was the cheater. I asked him so many times to tell me the truth and tell me it was physical. He always said no, it was only emotional. He had love for her, but wasn't in love with her. One day that week he was on his way home from work. We were on the phone. He told me work was calling and he had to go. Then he didn't get home until 20 minutes later than normal. When he got home, he was not okay. He was zoned out and crying. He wouldn't talk to me. I knew it was about her. I knew he had been with her. I asked him if he was upset that she was choosing to fix her marriage. He was. He said he was happy for her, but I know him better than he thinks I do. I comforted him for the loss of his girlfriend. That devastated me. No woman should have to comfort their husband for a breakup between him and another woman. While he's married to you, 2 days ago, I found a message he had typed to her on his iPad in his notes. I read it. It crushed me even more. He called her sweet love and told her he loved her multiple times. She was the best and he wished he could prove it to her daily. It was dated 3 weeks ago. I confronted him. He played dumb again. I asked him again if it was physical. He said no, swore on my life that it wasn't physical. The next day I had to leave to go to work. I contacted the girl's husband to see if he was home that day. He was. We ended up talking for way too long, and he broke the news to me they had been having since the beginning a year ago. I confronted my husband with this new information. He lied. Again and again. They were making it up. Trying to make me miserable. Side note, I also feel like our marriage is a joke in one big show. It's fake. He told me he wasn't happy on our wedding day. He didn't feel loved and cared for then. So why get married? I will forever be grateful because it gave me our son, but it doesn't hurt any less. I'm not a good wife. I do so many things wrong. I'm not clean enough. I'm not career-oriented enough. I don't bring enough to the table. I have spent the last year listening to all about what I could and should do better, but don't. I'm not good enough. There are so many other small things that go into all of this that don't feel it's small at all anymore. Just certain things he has told me. He'd be more attracted to me if I worked out. But he never acknowledged the fact that I lost 40 pounds. He doesn't show affection towards me. He always said he just wasn't that affectionate. But he has been affectionate towards her. What do I do? How do I get past this? How do I begin to trust him again? He says I have also broken his trust by snooping through his iPad. I have no one to talk to. I don't want anyone else to know yet. I don't want my family and friends to hate him. I am alone. I am looking for hopeful stories from people who have been through something similar. I need hope. Please refrain from negativity. I'm struggling with that enough right now. I am sure I am forgetting something. It's been a really long and emotional year. A lot has happened. I am thankful to have my baby boy.